Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're back. We're going to do another Hack the Box walkthrough. This is another retired machine called Devel. It is a Windows machine and it is rated as easy. Um, and it was okay. I decided to go the Metasploit route on this one once I found out what the initial exploit was, and then did some surveying on the machine. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So without further ado, you can see I am on Hack the Box's VPN. I do have Devel spun up, and this is the IP address. The first thing that we did, ran an mmap scan. And this looked very promising immediately because I did a service version detection T4 aggressive on the most common ports. And 21 shows is open, which is FTP. And not only that, it allows anonymous login, and it has something that looks suspiciously like the root of a website. And then, of course, there is the actual said website, which is running IIS 7.5. So the first thing I decided to do was open a browser window, and we're going to go to the website and see what happens. And it is, in fact, the default web page for IIS. And if we do a quick look at the page source, we can see this welcome.png. Okay. So I'm just going to take a look at this nmap scan again. See that right there? Welcome.png. So that means we potentially have access to the root of that home page of that website. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to do a dir to see where I am. Okay, I am in my home directory, so I'm going to do something pretty simple here. I'm going to do nano test.txt, and I'm just going to put this is a test, right? So that's what we have in this text file, okay? And we're going to hit Control X, do an ls, and we have test.txt there. So now we are going to FTP to this website. So got the IP address there. And if you remember, anonymous login was allowed. So we're going to do anonymous. Oh, geez, I don't know if it's going to take that, but I can't even spell anonymous. And it didn't. So let me just get back out of there and do it again and actually spell anonymous correctly. ANONYOUS. That's pretty pathetic. Anonymous. There we go. So now if we do a dir, we can see those two files, the start page and the welcome PNG graphic that we see when we visit the web page. Okay, so we're just going to see if we can write to this. We're going to do put test.txt. Oh boy. Okay, so it wrote. So if we come over to the web page, close this source, and if we can view this file, test.txt. Oh yeah, so we can definitely exploit this. So the Microsoft, the way that I'm thinking that this is going to go is we're going to do an ASPX, which is like it's an executable web page. Think about it like that, right? Like almost like PHP where you can execute commands, but it's like Microsoft based. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an ASPX payload that creates a reverse shell. Now I'm going to do it in Metasploit. You can 100% do this manually, but I'll tell you this: once I got on the box and I tried to, you are a very low level user when you get this shell. So what I decided to do was to kind of showcase Metasploit again, because there is another exploit that we're going to have to do privilege escalation. So I thought I would show everybody again how to use the Metasploit framework exploit suggester. Okay, so that's the plan. So we are going to just back up to the web page again, because we're going to need to get a payload up there. So The first thing we need to do is generate our payload. So I'm just going to copy this msfvenom statement that I put together. And really simply, this is an msfvenom payload that we're generating. It's going to be a Windows interpreter, which means we need to start a handler in the Metasploit framework. And it's going to do a reverse TCP, my IP address, my local port that I want to listen on, and then it's going to generate it in the format of ASPX. And then we want to put this payload into a file called reverse_shell.aspx. So we're going to hit enter. And it generated the payload. So if we do an ls, there's our reverse shell.aspx. So again, we're going to FTP to this website. And we're going to put rev_shell.aspx. Okay, so we can quit here. And then what we need to do is we need to start MSF console to start the Metasploit framework. And once we get a prompt, we'll get to work. Okay, so we're going to search multi-handler. All right, so we are going to use this right here, exploit multi-handler. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to use, and we're going to paste. All right, now we're going to do options. Now, if you look, the payload is generic shell reverse TCP. Well, that's not going to work because we created a meterpreter, a Windows meterpreter payload. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the payload from that msfvenom statement we created. And I'm going to do set, one second, edit. Okay. What we're going to do is, and I'll show you, you could do show payloads, and that'll show you all the payloads that are available. And you would look for the Windows meterpreter ones, which are right here, okay? But I just copied that payload in there. So I'm going to do set payload, and we're going to make it a Windows meterpreter shell. So paste clipboard. All right, so that is our payload now. So we look at the rest of the options, and we have to set the lhost. So set lhost, that is your machine's IP address. And you can use either the interface name or you can just type your IP address in. I'm going to put the interface name in. So my lhost is set. The L port is set to 444. I think we generated it on 1234. So we're going to do set R L port to 1234. Okay. Let's see what else we have to do here. I think that's it. We'll just type options one more time. Our IP address 1234, Windows Meterpreter reverse TCP. So we should be able to just click run, and it's going to sit there and wait. Okay. So now what we need to do is come over here, and we need to run our reverse shell, which we uploaded. So reverse shell.aspx. Now, hopefully when we hit enter, we're going to come back here and it's sending the stage. So we're in good shape. So we'll see if we get the meterpreter session. It may take a second here. And we do. All right, so if we do get UID, we are a very low level user. So let's just put it that way. So the first thing we're going to do is you can't get any flags with this user. So it's not even, we're not even going to bother. I can show you. We'll do a shell real quick. And cd c users. And if we do a dir, There's Babis and administrator. If we try to even CD into Babis, we get access denied. It's not going to let us into the administrator. Okay, so we're going to exit out of here. And when we get our interpreter prompt back, we're going to background this. So now that interpreter session is backgrounded. We can look at it and make sure it's still there by typing sessions. Okay, and if you want to interact with it, you can just session 1 and you'll be in your interpreter session. Okay, but we don't want to do that. Right now, what we want to do is search for suggester. And there's the Metasploit exploit suggester, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to do use 0, and we're going to show options, and we need to set basically just the session. So we wanted to use that interpreter session to analyze the machine and see what that machine is in fact potentially vulnerable to. So we're going to do set session to 1, and then we're going to run it. So now it's going to go through all of the exploits that are in the framework that it thinks the machine are applicable to the machine. And then it'll come back with a nice kind of formatted report, not really a report, but it's going to list all the things that it's potentially vulnerable to, all the things that it's not vulnerable to. So I can already see we're getting some things that it's vulnerable to. So it won't be long and we'll get the report. Okay, almost done. And there we go. So everything in red we can ignore because it's not going to work. The things that the target is vulnerable to, you'll see right here. Could not be validated, potential, but not really. So what I can tell you is this. I went through every one of these. Well, not every one of them. I went through the ones that I thought were applicable, okay, that we're actually vulnerable to. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then there's these ones at the bottom. I didn't even get that far. I tried 2 of them in particular, and I've used this one in the past, but this one did not work this time. It says the service is running, it could not be validated, and in fact, it did not work. The one that I actually used was this one, which was msfvenom client copy image. I didn't really know a whole lot about it, but what you can do is the Metasploit Framework will give you a little bit of information on it, and you can certainly, if you put ms15-051 into Google, you're going to get a boatload of information, okay? So we're going to copy this, and we're going to say use, and we're going to paste it in here. Now, if you want to learn a little bit about it, what you can do is you can type info. And it gives you a little bit of info on the crash OS. So there's some instability with it. There's available targets for x86 and x64. Check supported, which means it checks for the vulnerability. The settings are, you need to provide the session. Payload space is 4,096 bytes. The description. This module exploits improper object handling in the Win32K syskernel mode driver. So this is a kernel exploit. This module has been tested vulnerable on vulnerable builds of Windows 7 and Windows 2008 R2 SP1. And I believe this is Windows 2008. And then it gives you a bunch of references. You can get the full module info with InfoD. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. InfoD. Oh boy. Gives you a whole thing that's actually web-based. That's pretty cool. So we're going to go back here and we're going to do options. Let's actually type options. Okay. So we need to set the session. So it's going to use our interpreter session to try and exploit this kernel. Okay, so we'll type options again. And now we have to set the lhost. So we'll set lhost to ton 0. Type options. And now I think the L port's fine because our other interpreter session is on 1234, and x86 is probably fine as well. So we're going to click run. And I just make sure the payload is a Windows, so we should get a second interpreter session with this one. So, and you can see that right here. Windows, this is a staged payload, by the way. You can tell because the interpreter and the reverse TCP are separated by a slash and not an underscore. So we're going to hit run. Sending stage, that's a great sign. Okay, and there we go. So we go get UID, and we are NT authority system. So if we do a shell, oops, actually type shell, we can do CD, and we can do a dir, and I'm actually going to stop showing flags. I think it's probably best that I do that. These are retired machines, so they don't count towards your hacker rank, but you know, I should probably get in the habit of not actually showing the flags. But to just show you that we can get to the flag, we're going to go there. So if we do a dir, you can see there's the root.txt. I'll back it up. We can go into CD Babis, CD desktop, and we can do a dir. And there's the user flag. So we got the user and root flag. What we did to exploit this machine was we tested, we found out that FTP was anonymous and basically allowed us write access to the root of the website that the machine was running, IIS version 7.5. We uploaded a test file to see that we could actually write to it and that the file would display when we tried to access it via the website, and it did. So then what we did was we generated an ASPX payload using msfvenom. We uploaded it to the FTP site. We started a multi-handler in the Metasploit Framework. We then executed the ASPX file by visiting it in the website. That gave us a low-level interpreter shell. We used that shell to run the Metasploit suggester, the exploit suggester, and then ended up using a copy image kernel exploit that took advantage of an improper .sys file. So essentially that's what we did to root this machine. And you can see we got the user.txt and we got the root.txt. So again, I'm going to be doing some more videos on the Metasploit framework. There's going to be a series coming. It may have even started by the time this video gets published. So I'm going to start using it a little bit more. I enjoy it, and I think it's a useful tool. And if you're a pen tester, you can use whatever tools you want. So I hope you found this video useful. I will include any links that I mentioned in this video in the description below. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, or criticisms, please feel free to drop them below, and I'll be happy to engage with you. And I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.